singer named Justin Moore.
We don't do a whole lot of bullshitting up here. We just get up here and play country music.
Hey, check 1, 2. Welcome back, everyone, to this week's episode of the Justin Moore Podcast. I'm your old buddy, old pal, JR, and on the other end is my brother, Mr. JM, wearing a really cool-looking Arkansas zip-up sweater. Of course, it's springtime. It's probably 80 degrees. He's got a sweater on. Oh, got the hog underneath, too. He's going hog wild. He's ready for some hog delight, ladies and gentlemen.
Ready.
Yeah, I see you've got all your sweaters on because you're usually cold. You're always cold. Anybody listens, we know that. You're always cold. I'm always hot. Well, I got a problem this week. My air conditioning in the studio's out. So, buddy, don't you know I'm going to be in trouble here in a few weeks when it gets sure enough hot.
We should just swap offices for the week, I guess, because that'd be
You'd
perfect
love it.
for me.
Yeah,
And
I walk in here today. It's a nice little warm puff hit me when I walk in. I was like, whoa, I don't know.
And the last few days here, it's been like 75, 80.
Sweatshirt every day for you.
Oh, yeah, always.
I love
But
it. I
we
love
got a really good show for you guys today. Thanks for listening and watching if you're doing that, or both, whatever and however you guys choose to consume this podcast. But we told you last week we got a really big announcement, which we will discuss later. I also have a really good shocker for you guys. I think it's a really good shocker for you guys, and maybe I'll ask for some advice from you guys on how to go about it. But we've been talking about, throughout this podcast, my career and a lot of aspects of it. And, I've always talked about the fact there are a ton of people around me that have been a huge part of me having enjoyed the success that I have as an artist over the years. And I know we talked to my longtime manager a season or two ago, Pete Hartung, and I know people enjoyed that. And we've been talking about getting my longtime producer and one of my best friends in the world, really my brother, to be honest with you. I'd never had a brother, so he's another brother along with JR. But want to welcome my man Jeremy Stover, my longtime producer and brother and songwriting partner, etc., to the show. What's up, brother? Big country.
Hey, buddy, just sitting here in Florida, staring at the sunshine. Had a big storm come through this morning, knocked our internet, cable, all that kind of stuff out. But I'm on the hot spot.
I didn't realize when you said that that you were down there. Hell, I guess I just missed you. Are y'all on spring break?
We are. Yeah, We're
Okay.
here till tomorrow.
So y'all are a week earlier than us. We're on spring break next week.
Got it. Are you guys coming down?
No, we're not. We're actually going skiing. We had a ski trip planned. You may remember. We had a ski trip planned last March for spring break and didn't get to obviously go because of the world falling apart around us. But so we had until this March to take it. So that's what we're doing. We're going out to Steamboat to ski.
Yeah. Y'all were supposed to go like 2 days after our last show got shut down. Y'all were supposed to leave a few days later. I remember Kate was all worried about it, and I was like, I don't know. I think we got bigger fish to fry this year than a ski trip. But, hey, but I got to say this. Don't do nothing but bring a smile to my face to see you, big country. I love the whale in the background, just looking at you. Of all the stuff that goes on, to see your buddies. We were talking about going on the road last week and seeing people. Just brings a smile to your face because used to seeing each other all the time and just hadn't.
Hey, JR, man, you're cutting in and out really bad.
Am I?
Yeah. We were just talking about the fact that we haven't had internet issues in a while. And here we are. Just when you think you get it figured out. But, yeah, dude.
Buddy, I get it.
Y'all going to be down there quite a bit for the summer?
Not really. I mean, we're going to California the last week of May, and then we're going to go down here. We're going to come down here the first week of June, and then we're renting our place out. I mean, it's rented every week through June, July, and August. So
I got you.
And then we'll probably take another trip somewhere because we spent all of Thanksgiving, 2 weeks at Christmas, spring break, and then we'll be here that first week of June. I think we'll maybe try to do something else with the kids, just change it up.
Something
Maybe
different
in the summer. Yeah.
Yeah. So you mean you stayed all those holidays at home? Is that what you're saying?
No, at down here at the beach.
Oh, down there. Okay, cool. Yeah. Well, I'm sure we're gonna cross paths down there quite a bit, but we usually spend quite a bit of the summer just because, you know, we're so busy, which I know you are with ball and
Right.
all that stuff, which I know you are. So for those out there listening and watching, Jeremy and I, we can kind of go into our story, how we met. I don't remember. Was it like 05? Something, 06 maybe, something like that?
No, I think it was, I was thinking about that this morning, and I believe it was like in 03.
Okay, it was a little earlier than that. Yeah,
Because we started writing, I think, probably in September or October of 03, right around that time frame.
So speaking of that, there's a sports talk station out of Little Rock that I listen to every morning and know the guys well from it, and you know they always talk hogs and all that good stuff. So I listen to that, and one of their questions today was they always ask these cohort questions, you know, and they ask, "What are 3 Arkansans dead or alive that you would want to have dinner with or whatever?" So this guy calls up and says, "Man, so-and-so and so-and-so, and I'd like to have dinner with Justin Moore. And I know Justin listens to the show because he's called in and this and that. And if he's listening today, I want him to know that I love all his music. I just thought it was ironic that I heard this today. So I wanted to tell you." And he goes, "But there's this song that me and all my buddies love that ain't never been on an album. And you and I have had these conversations in the past, like, how do these people know these songs that never have been on an album?" He goes, "It's called Long Way From Home." And I texted the show host, and I go, "Man, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm pretty dang sure I'm right." So it would have been about the time we were just discussing 03 or whatever, and we started writing. I said, "I think that was the very first song we ever wrote together when I moved to Nashville."
Yeah, I think it was. I mean, I think that was the very first one, and we wrote that with Brian Mayer. And I remember, you know, we did a demo of that song. And from what I remember, I think when you started doing shows, I think you kind of sold some of those, like you just made some CDs before you had a record deal, if I remember right. And you were selling some of those CDs at shows. I think probably some of those demos got out there that way, you know.
Yeah, which would be a complete no-no now, like to go and do that. But, you know, back then it was a different world, obviously. But I know you and I have had those conversations in the past, and because there's probably 6, 8, 10 of those songs around out there that people always go, "Man, play this," or "Why ain't that been on an album?" And I texted the guy today, I don't know why it ain't been on an album, to be honest with you. But, I mean, Jeremy and I could go into about 30 of those why we ain't put stuff on an album, that songs that we absolutely love. I mean, you know, I've told the story in interviews and on here a million times about Late Nights and Long Necks is a song that I've been wanting to put on every album we've ever recorded, and I just knew it was going to be on the last one. So I was like, "Well, name it Late Nights and Long Necks," and then it didn't even make the last one.
Well, the thing is, I think part of that, you know, is, you know, the new songs seem to always come to the front. I guess maybe sometimes you and we've listened to those old ones so many times, you know, it's like when you hear the new ones, you go, "Well, man, you know, you don't realize people out there aren't as tired of them as you and I are." You know?
Right. Well, I mean, that's what I tell people, whether it's an artist or a writer or a combo, like we know we got to go play the hits, if you will, but like you want to play your new stuff and by the time an album comes out, we're already tired of that album and we're working on the next one. You know, it's just kind of funny, really, when you think about it.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, even now I'll go back sometimes just every once in a while and listen to like the first 3 albums or something, and there's songs even on the albums that I forgot about. You know, that obviously were never singles, that were album cuts, you know?
Yeah, I was listening to, and I don't even know why, but I was listening to the Off the Beaten Path album recently. Maybe we were gonna play a song off of it, and I kind of did the same thing. I go, oh, I forgot about that song. Oh, and that song too. I forgot about all those. But anyway, it's kind of funny. So some of those really old ones can become new again like that. But anyway, we met in '03, started writing songs. And the second song we ever wrote together was Small Town USA. And that was with Brian Mayer as well. And, you know, I think we knew pretty early on that had a chance to be a fairly special song. I was just nervous when we wrote it, and after, I'm like, there has to have been a song called Small Town USA. I don't know if you remember us in the room that day, and I kept going, are y'all positive there's never been a song called Small Town USA?
Yeah, no, I there had never been that I was aware of, and you know, I think it was the second song we wrote, and to me, what's really the really great part of that story, you know, is we wrote it in, like, I want to say it was October of '03, and just the fact that, you know, it became your first number one in 2009.
Yeah,
you know?
it came out. Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing, like, the belief in those songs that you know are there, and how long, you know, you got to stick with them sometimes, you know?
Yeah. And for those out there watching and listening, JR is finally back.
Hey.
So anyway.
Right, sorry.
Yeah, that became a number one, 6 years later, something like that. So for any aspiring artists or songwriters even out there, it's just when I moved to town in '02, it's hard to believe that's been 19 years ago. It's crazy. Everybody said, man, it just takes time. And you're sitting there going, well, why the hell does it take so long? Like, we've got these songs, I can sing, but it just takes time, you know? And obviously, when I got turned down for different deals here and there, I wasn't ready at the time. I was a kid that didn't have a clue and was green as a blade of grass. And so it all works out when it's supposed to, if it's supposed to, obviously. But kind of how, you know, we had Pete on here, Jeremy, and talked about kind of how our meeting and stuff, and kind of how I got a deal and all that. And Jeremy, for those out there listening, was such an integral part, and still to this day is, of that happening. Jeremy really was a huge reason why I got my first publishing deal with Keith Stegall. I wish he could have got me more than $12,000 a year early on. But anyway, it was a huge opportunity, and I've talked about how it was just a huge opportunity because I really got the experience of not only meeting people, but learning how to write a song. You know, at that point, I'd written some just god-awful songs, but I wouldn't even call them songs at that point. But Keith Stegall, for those out there listening, is long-time Alan Jackson producer. Among you can speak to what all he's done beyond that. As if that's not enough.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, he's been a really good mentor for me, you know, because he really accomplished a lot of things, you know. I mean, he developed Randy Travis. You know, he's the one that discovered Randy Travis and developed him. Same thing with Alan Jackson. You know, same thing with Zach Brown Band. I mean, he's one of my mentors and somebody that I, you know, listen to and really have got some good advice from on a lot of things, business and life. And so I was really glad that you and I were able to do that, you know. And I think that's a big part of why it takes a little while, at least when you come to town. And I mean, you came to town right out, you know, pretty much out of high school, you know, and people just have to like gravitate toward what you're doing, start understanding what you're about. And I think the beautiful part of it taking a while for you was, you know, you really got to develop what you wanted to represent within the music, not just singing just like a song to sing a song, you know?
Right. And I think that's been a huge part of our longevity. I mean, really. I mean, I don't think we would have had the sustained success that we've had without that. You know, I learned who I wanted to be and what I wanted to say and all those things as an artist. And fortunately, and I've heard you in interviews and you and I have discussed this personally, it's like, if I was a producer, I would be Jeremy Stover, and if he was an artist, he would be Justin Moore. I mean,
Right.
and we grew up in similar ways. Jeremy's from LJ, Georgia, small town, rural. You know, I'm from Arkansas, small town, rural, and we just kind of hit it off. And you know, as long as we've worked together, there's much success in the business we've had together. I mean, it goes way beyond that. I mean, our families are close. We're great friends. I mean, as I said when we were coming on, I mean, we're more like brothers than anything. And so it's been a blast. But tell people out there listening that may not know, like your story in a nutshell. I know it well, but maybe a little bit of backstory how you became, you know, a hit songwriter and producer.
Well, you know, I moved to Nashville in '94 to go to college, so I finished college there. Then, you know, worked some odd jobs and that kind of stuff. You know, and obviously I was writing songs at night while I was trying to work during the day. And I would just write with anybody that would write with me, you know. And luckily, when I was in college, I got to meet some guys that have become successful writers now, and we all kind of came up together, so we would write together at night. Then in 2000, I'd saved up like $3,500 to do 10 demos of songs that I loved that I'd written. And so I went and did those and went around to publishers, played those, you know, and unfortunately got like 5 publishing deal offers off of those 10 songs. Now, realistically, I probably had written, you know, a good 200 or 300 at that point, living in Nashville at least, to get those 10, you know.
So you just picked the 10 best?
Yeah, what I thought was the 10 best. And so then obviously I'm not really a demo singer or anything, so I went and hired you know, some of the best demo singers in town to sing them also. I just did it the way that I wanted to do it, the musicians I wanted to use, the studio I want to use, all that. And so, it started there. And so I got my first publishing deal in 2000. Then I actually had my first hit in 2003. It would have been right before I met you. It would have been about the time I had my first hit.
Was it on Emerson Drive?
It was, yeah. And a song called Fall Into Me. That was my first hit on the radio, and it almost was my first number 1. It went to number 2 and sat behind Blake Shelton's The Baby for 4 weeks or something crazy. Oh, man. but what a song to lose to, you know.
Yeah, right.
But and it wasn't a loss. I mean, I still had a number 2 record. But so it progressed from there. Obviously, I met you, and through that whole process, you know, that was one of my things I always wanted to do. You know, is I wanted to develop artists and help them move their careers forward. And as I started having hits through that 03, 04, 05, 06 time, you know, that's kind of when you and I were really writing a lot of songs and hitting it hard to get to that place.
We were hitting it hard in a lot of different ways.
I don't know, man. I think that one time the tequila truck had to come one night because they ran out. I don't know.
Your wedding, not to throw us off track, but your wedding is still the reason I don't drink tequila. I'm telling you, it's honest to God truth. I almost drowned in the ocean with a couple of buddies of ours.
I was just glad y'all showed up for the wedding. I told Miley the next day, I said we should have had the wedding at 10 a.m., not 6 p.m.
No kidding. No kidding.
And so just carry on there. And then through that process, I'd met Scott Borchetta, and I started meeting a lot of the other label heads just through having hits as a songwriter. So then I started getting opportunities to produce and do those things. And so it really progressed through that. You and I started having our success, and I had some success with some other things. And then decided to start my own publishing company, and it's kind of progressed from there, and it's done really well. And and so here we are. But And to be quite frank, I mean, you've probably been the biggest mainstay throughout my whole career, because I've known you since '03, and here we are sitting in 2021. And fortunately, you know, we're still having success, and it's been an amazing journey.
It really has, man. It's really amazing that it's been this long. I mean, it's really just hard to believe. First of all, I can't believe we're old enough to have done it as long as we have. And secondly, you and I both know well, so many talented people in town, artists and otherwise, that, you know, that are super talented. They just haven't had the breaks maybe as us, or when their name was called, they weren't as prepared maybe as we were at times, and then a lot of luck's involved in it. You know, I say all the time, there's guys that can sing way better than me, and are way better musicians, etc. But I don't know. I'll take it. But I think probably the proudest thing about you know, our journey together is the fact that we are still doing it this much longer, or this much later rather. And I mean, I truly believe this. It's not artist speak, and every artist probably believes this, but I believe what we've done over the last few years and what's coming, which we're announcing today, by the way, is the best stuff that we've done. I really do.
Yeah, man. I just think our whole progression has been really great, in the sense of, like, you know, understanding what you're about at the time and knowing what to grow upon, and just in each moment of time, you know, because music does change a little bit over time. I mean, if you think about from the first time that we had music out up till now, it's been interesting, because it feels like to me we started out kind of like audio-wise where we are now, but we went through this progression kind of in the middle that changed that a little bit. But it feels like now that it's almost like what we had in the beginning, but I think the songs are way better.
Yeah, I agree. They're certainly more mature, and that comes with developing newer relationships. Not that the ones that we had in the past weren't great, but developing more relationships, maybe I should say, with different co-writers, et cetera. And so for those that don't know, I've alluded to it, but maybe I haven't said it flat out. And JR's back, by the way, again. He may leave us again, but he's having trouble today.
You know how mad I am right now, too.
He sounds like a robot. So hang in there with him. And yeah, I know I would be frustrated too. But anyway, where we've been and where we're going, I think is really exciting with our music. And Jeremy, I don't know if you knew where I was headed there, but because we usually I told somebody in the writing room, like, we usually can finish each other's sentences. You know, it's one of those kind of deals. But
he was saying, am I back?
Yeah.
You're back.
What was I saying?
He was saying, Jeremy was just saying it's fun. The music y'all first started is like the music y'all are making now.
Yeah. And a lot of that, you know, I'm proud of the fact too, as radio has changed over the years, you know, and people always go, hey, why don't you play this? Or, you know, that kind of stuff. Well, you know, in order for us to be sitting here talking to you right now, we had to bend a little bit. You know, as the radio started sounding different, but we never broke. We never jumped off the rails. You know, but you know, we would bend a little bit, but we never got too far from our thing. And I think that's a big reason for our longevity as well. I really do.
Yeah, I just think it's so important, you know, as an artist to not contradict yourself, you know. And I think that you've done a really good job of that. I mean, you've sung every kind of song about it that you can sing, but yet you've never really contradicted yourself in things, you know?
Yeah.
So I think so important.
Yeah. I know where I was going with that. What I was going to say, I've alluded to it in the past, but I don't know that I've flat out said it. But Jeremy's written probably, whether it be with me or whomever else, 90% of the songs I've recorded, I would say, something like that, just for people out there listening. And he's produced everything I've ever done. And, you know, a lot of artists go through changes where they thought, oh, well, I want to try this new sound with this new guy because, you know, just like artists, producers are all different. They all have their own tendencies and different ways of going about getting what they think is the best thing they can get. And for me, it was just never even an option. I love what we were doing. I'll go back to a story I've told a number of times. I got offered 2 record deals, I got offered a record deal by a company that is no longer in existence, but they did have some success. And they said, this was my first album. We had the whole first album. They said, look, we'll offer you a deal, but you need a new producer and you have no songs. Well, I took that album. Jeremy took the album. I just stood up in that meeting. I said, I appreciate you, but no thank you. And because I really believed in what we had. And you know this story, and you know who I'm talking about.
Sure.
But they shall remain nameless. But anyway, Jeremy had developed a relationship with Scott Borchetta at the time, the head of our record label, and who started Big Machine and Valerie, etc. And I don't know if you remember this. I was so jaded at the time, but Jeremy calls me one day in 2005 maybe or something like that, and I'm back home in Arkansas fishing. And he calls me, he goes, man, what are you doing? I said, I'm fishing. I'm at home for a while or whatever. I'd been turned down by 3, 4, 5 people at the time, so I'm like, yeah, this ain't never going to work, whatever. And so you go, hey, this guy, and I'm like, yeah, I've heard of him. I'm not super familiar, but I am familiar with the name, et cetera, Scott Borchetta. And this was well before he had started the record label and signed Taylor Swift and the whole bit. And he goes, man, I really think you ought to come to town. I'm like, dude, screw it, I'm fishing. And he goes, man, I really think you ought to maybe come to town and meet this guy. I'm like, all right. So begrudgingly, I go to town and we meet at, I forget, the Red Door or something like that. And it wasn't too much longer until he offered us a deal. I mean, it was weeks later, it seems.
Yeah, because I think after that meeting, you just set up a show with your band, and Scott and I came to the show, and I think like 3 songs in, he just turns around at the bar and says, "Are we gonna do this?" And I was like, "Hell yeah!" So through that whole progression, obviously, he started his second label, Valerie, and you were a big part of that initial push on that new label, which is great. Yeah,
a fun fact, that show that I set up with my band that Jeremy's talking about, where we essentially got a deal, my lead guitar player in that band was John Osborne, who is now John Osborne of Brothers Osborne. He was my first guitar player in Nashville. So it's funny how things come full circle, and happy for him and his brother and the success that they're enjoying. But JR, are you here, man? I
think I am. You guys keep going. I'm so mad over here. I'm steaming. If it wasn't hot in this studio already, buddy, I tell you what. Hey, I real quick, hey, Big Country, good to see you, buddy. I know I've been in and out, but what I was saying earlier is it was good to see you, brother. It's been a while. I'm used to seeing you more on the reg, but it's good to see you looking good, buddy. You look almost as good as you do on this picture they have of you here when you Google your name. You got this vest on with this red plaid shirt, buddy. You looking sharp.
You talking about my Filson shirt? Yeah,
that's it, boy, looking sharp. I want to say here it says that Jeremy Stover is an American country music songwriter and record producer. Stover is an alumni of Belmont University. Stover has written singles for Tim McGraw, John Party, Winona, Martina McBride, and others. I can't believe they didn't put JM on that top list now. I'm just going to have to get on to the Google folks here now.
Wow, that is weird.
That is weird, but I think if you keep looking down through there, it might say... It has a whole little thing on just.
It does. It says associated acts on down there, but I just give them a hard time for the Google machine.
Yeah,
I try not to Wikipedia anything, because a few times I've ever tried to do that on here and we've had guests, it's always backfired. It's something it's either wrong or something nobody wants to talk about or something like that.
Well, hey, just here's a fun little fact. is there's an MMA fighter named Jeremy Stover, and so I've been confused a few times.
Wow.
Well, I always heard you're more of a lover and a fighter of the big country. Hey, I was talking about records. There's an outlet on one of the social media outlets. It's Beats, Beers, and Bonfires, and they did a thing this week where they ranked every Justin Moore album from good to best. And I don't have it all pulled up right here because the internet's not working great. But I looked at it last night, and they had Late Nights and Long Necks is the best so far. They love the new record, and they love, obviously on this they're saying good to best because they like all your records. But I think that just shows too. A lot of people go back to the old stuff, and some people like the newer stuff, and then. Now the new album, which y'all say comes full circle, is what they picked to be their favorite of all of them. So I thought that was pretty neat.
Yeah.
Shout out to those guys. But, hey, too, Big Country, I know you got to go because you got to go write some more hit songs today. But two things from old JR, and I'll let y'all kick it back over. One, we had somebody close to the family on here by a long shot that ended up, now we know him, John Schneider, Bo Duke, who actually you have two boys, Bo and Luke, after the Dukes of Hazzard, and we had Bo Duke on here, and I got to tell him that one of your kids is Bo after Bo Duke.
Miley ain't close, is she?
No, I ran them out of the house, or you'd be hearing pots and pans and people screaming and no telling.
Yeah, I made sure I mentioned that on there. I said hopefully she doesn't listen to the podcast. But,
well, hey, real quick, just so you know, I went and saw him sing at the Franklin Theater. And I went to the meet and greet.
Did you?
I did, because he'd been writing some songs with a friend of mine, and he said he's playing if you want to go. I was like, heck yeah! So I went to the meet and greet, and he gave me two orange 01 hats.
Oh wow!
And he signed them for Bo and Luke.
Oh, that's awesome. Cool. That's awesome. He commented when we had him, Jeremy, that he had heard we didn't have much, which Jeremy co-wrote our newest single, and he's like, "There's only one problem with that song." He goes, "It's Bo and Luke, not Luke and Bo." I go, "Well, they had to rhyme it right, man. Come on, So it was pretty funny, but So Jeremy kind of mentioned how loud his house could be, and that is because he is pretty much in the same boat as I am. We both have 4 children. The only difference is I have 3 girls and a boy, and he has 3 boys and a girl. And so I'm assuming they're all good. Bo and Luke and Kona Blue and Kane. Is Kane in college now?
No, he'll be graduating high school May 20th, and then
Kane's going to be a pro golfer. Legitimately, he's that ridiculously good. Is he going to play in college?
He is. Yeah, he got a scholarship. He's going to be going to a junior college. Actually, he got a few more opportunities and offers, but he feels like that just for the future, that if he goes to this junior college, he really likes the coach at Cleveland State, so he's going to go there and just continue to grow his game to hopefully be able to upstream, to some D1 schools coming up. So
then move on to the Georgia Bulldogs from there.
Right? Let's hope.
There. The Cleveland State, we've been there. I'm just thinking, I've got a Cleveland State sweatshirt. We've played there at university a few times. They're basketball.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Oh. Then Jeremy has a daughter, Kona Blue, who's 9 or 10.
Yeah, she's 9 now. Yeah, and she's just a dancing fool.
She's a character now. She ain't never met a stranger. I can promise you. I stayed with Jeremy. We were recording 2 albums ago, maybe 1 album ago, something like that. And she knows me, like we know each other. But she, you remember how she would address me? She'd be like, "Hey, Justin Moore, do you want me to? Hey, Justin Moore, you want something to drink?" I'm like, it's so funny. She's my buddy.
Man. She's great.
And then he's got 2 twin boys who we were just talking about, Bo and Luke. So I bet they're getting big, man. Oh,
they are. They are. Yeah, my wife talked me into 1 more, and I got 2. So let that be a little lesson to everybody out there in the World Wide Web.
Well, no doubt about it. No doubt about it.
Well, good thing they all look like her more than they do you, so that's a win.
Hey,
Stover
I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining about that. So.
No, you don't. Hey, I know we got to cut you loose, Big Country, and I know y'all talked JM records and albums and stuff earlier. And you obviously know I'm a big fan of everything you've done because you've worked with a bunch of my other buddies besides Justin, and it's always been gold. But I know one story, and I doubt y'all told it already, but you got to tell it because one of the favorite guests we've had on here was our mutual friend, Mr. Red Aiken, and he had some pretty good Bo Cephas stories. And there's a Big Country Bo Cephas story that I've loved since you first told me this story.
Oh God, there he goes again. I'll finish that thought. JR has loved. We've all loved this story for a long time. So, not unlike myself or Red or JR, Jeremy shares our affinity for Hank Jr. albums and records and his artistry and but he's got a. Was it your first experience with him?
Oh, buddy, it was. Yeah, of course it was.
And last.
So here's what happened. Well, I would be afraid he would remember me. So me and a bunch of my buddies back when I was single used to hang out at this bar called Dan McGinnis on Demumbrian, and so we were in there and they served food till about 1 a.m. We were in there about midnight one night sitting at the bar. And come through the door, here comes full-on Bo Cephas, cowboy hat, sunglasses, pants stuffed in the boots. I'm talking like strolls right in there. It's like him and his manager and somebody else, and they sit down at a table. They don't sit at the bar, they sit at a table. And so let's just say I'd had a little bit of liquid courage, and my buddies were like, "Isn't he your hero?" And I was like, "Yeah." They're like, "We dare you to go buy him a shot." And at the time, it sounded like a great idea, you know. And so I walk over to the table, and I walk up. He looks up, and I'm like, "Mr. Hank," I said, "you're one of my biggest heroes. I'd love to buy you a shot." And he goes, "Let's do it, brother." He stands up from the table and leads me back to the bar. I mean, he's walking like he's going to attack a cowboy, you know.
Good night.
So he walks up to the bar, and I walk up, and he looks over at me, and we're standing side by side. And he looks over at me and goes, "What are we drinking?" And I was so nervous, you know, because the bartender's staring at me, and all my buddies are sitting over there laughing. And so I said to the bartender, I said, "Give us 2 shots of Jack." And he looks down under his glasses. He goes, "I drink Beam, brother," and walks right back to the table without the shot.
So you just walk away with 2 shots dejected.
Oh, and see, the thing was, I mean, I know all the Beam songs, and I was just so nervous, I just went for the easiest thing to think about. Because I was just thinking whiskey.
Right, exactly.
So I drink Beam, brother. That's what I got from that conversation.
Jeez, man. That's so funny. So, well, I'll ask you just a couple quick things that maybe fans would want to know. What's your favorite song? What's your favorite song of ours? And then your favorite song you've ever written?
Buddy.
I think I know that second one, but I could be wrong.
Man, it's tough. I mean, our stuff especially is really tough. I mean, favorite, I probably can give you 3, man.
Okay.
I don't know, man. I think, as far as just the songs, I think Outlaws Like Me. I think Jesus and Jack Daniels. And probably the ones that didn't make it back home.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just hard, man. It's like, I'm very proud of the hits we've had, but I'm like, just as far as like when I'm sitting around with the guitar and there's a couple people sitting around, like, those are always the songs I want to play.
The go-to ones, yeah. Well, and then what's your favorite you've ever written? I think I know the answer to this, but I think we've discussed this.
Well, it's down to 2 now. I think probably when I got asked this, we hadn't written the current single. It really could be one of my favorite. That and a song that Tim McGraw recorded called "That's How I'll Always Be."
Yeah, I love that song.
Though I think the new single of yours that we did, and that's probably my two favorites.
Yeah. I think at the time we had discussed it. It was the one that you and your wife Miley had written that Ronnie Dunn recorded.
Yeah, well, that's just a cool story. I'll tell it just real quick.
Yeah, that is a very cool story.
But my wife and I, it was actually right before we got married. We had been to Florida, and she and I wrote a song together. Well, and when we were writing it, I was kind of mimicking Ronnie Dunn, just singing, being silly, you know. Well, I come back, and so when I asked her to marry me, I sang her that song when we got engaged. Well, like a week later, somebody from Sony Records called me and said, "Hey, I played that song for Ronnie Dunn, and he's going to record it." And so he goes, and that's been one of my lifelong dreams too, is like one of the best vocalists ever in country music, hear him sing a song that I was a part of. And so that one just has a big meaning all the way around because it kind of came full circle in a lot of different ways. Yeah.
And don't let Jeremy fool you. When we're writing a song, anytime we're writing a song, it wasn't just that song. He mimics Ronnie Dunn. That's a go-to.
It just tells me to get my phrasing out yet.
And then as far as albums go, I think I know your favorite of ours. I think it's Off the Beaten Path. Is that still accurate?
Yeah, I think just for me, I know you and I know you have a different one. I don't know. I don't know exactly why, but I tend to want to listen to that one the most. You know.
Yeah. I see mine. I have a tie probably between Outlaws Like Me and the Late Nights and Long Necks. But anyway, before we JR, you got anything else, buddy?
Well, I was just gonna say real quick that I'm back finally. Did you tell the Bo Cephas story?
Oh yeah, he told it. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, I drink bean, brother.
I drink bean, brother. I use that all the time still. Anyway, well, hey, I didn't get to hear it. I'm gonna punch my computer and burn all my equipment as soon as this is over. But there's something that we do on here with a lot of our guests. Big Country is the number one songs in country music on the day we were born. And for me, September 11th, 1979 was Conway Twitty's "I May Never Go to Heaven," and JM's 3:30:84 was Alabama's "Roll On 18-Wheeler." You want to take a stab in August of '72 what the number one song in the country was?
Man, I have no idea. Probably like T.G. Shepherd, as old as I am.
It's a doozy, and I'm not
Islands in the Stream.
No, I'm not. I think I was a little
That
later. I'm not very
later.
familiar with the song, but I definitely know the artist. It was "Bless Your Heart" by Mr. Freddie Hart. That was the number one song that week. And so bless your heart, Jeremy. We appreciate you coming on the Justin Moore podcast and bearing
thank you, buddy.
all our unprofessionalism. And I know you're going to go write a couple more hit songs. And man, it's good to talk with you, brother.
Hey, good to talk with you. And I'm going to go jam that "Bless Your Heart" a little later today. And thank you, y'all. So thank you so much for having me. This has been a blast.
Hey, buddy, love you, and we'll talk soon and hang soon. And hey, I'll text you. I got an idea while we were talking, a song idea, so I think it's pretty good.
Okay.
So
awesome. That'd be great.
But before you get off here, I know you got to go.
Yeah.
We mentioned we had big news today. We're doing a big announcement, and I kind of mentioned it earlier a little bit, but I didn't say anything about it. But I just thought I would get your thoughts on it real quick, and you can be a part of the announcement. So the big announcement, drum roll please. Are y'all excited and listening out there? Pay attention. Stay with us, JR. We have a brand new album coming out, and it's coming out soon, like in a month. I've been kind of telling people the story of how we wrote the last album, but we had probably 3 times as many songs as we put on the last album. So this, to me, is kind of just an extension of that album. And I think if people loved the last one, they're going to also love this one. So I don't know if you wanted to throw anything out there about the album from your perspective. It's going to be called Straight Out of the Country, by the way, for those out there listening and watching.
Yeah, I'll just say I completely agree with you. It's really a good extension of the last album. I think if people really dig that, then they're definitely going to dig this new one. So I'm pumped about it.
Awesome. Well, thanks, brother. I appreciate it. Appreciate the time. Tell Miley and the kiddos hey, and we'll hook up soon, hopefully, man.
Okay, buddy. Talk with you soon.
All right, brother. Later.
All right, see you.
D Big Country.
See you, JR. Take care, buddy.
All right, brother.
Hey, big announcement there. We're going to take a quick break. Thanks to Stover, Big Country is what we call him, my longtime producer and friend and ally in this crazy business for 18 years now. So thank him for spending some time with us. And so we'll come back and we'll talk about that and talk about the big, huge, gigantic announcement that we just made.
Huge.
Huge. Hey, stay tuned. We'll be right back with more of the Justin Moore Podcast. Hey, before we go any further, we want to remind you guys that today's podcast is sponsored by Bobcat Company, who has honestly blown me away with the amount of cool and useful equipment that they offer. I didn't know they had all the stuff that they do, to be honest with you. You know Bobcat for their loaders, as I did. They're the ones that invented the skid steer 60-plus years ago, and today they make a Toolcat utility work machine, zero-turn mowers, compact tractors, and honestly a ton of other cool stuff that makes it not only easy, but a whole hell of a lot of fun to get work done on your property. So check them out at bobcat.com. Hey, y'all, welcome back to the Justin Moore Podcast. I want to thank my longtime producer, best buddy, brother, whatever, all of the above for coming on. And I hope you guys enjoyed kind of the backstory of our relationship and where it began. We could have gone way, way deeper. We could have taken a much deeper dive, but Jeremy, as we talked about, is like me. He's busy with a bunch of kiddos in the house and trying to write some more hit songs and working throughout this thing. And he was kind of on a deadline today, but we'll have to get him back on and go through some more stories because I think you caught a glimpse of a couple of really good ones of his, and we've got a ton of them together and have to get him back on to tell some more of those. I know that you guys liked that about the Red Akins episode. If you guys didn't check that out, check out the Red Akins episode from, I believe it was season 2. So a lot of fun, and we can go way more in depth on specific songs that Jeremy and I have written together, and maybe take some questions at hashtag Justin Moore Podcast and acquire a bunch of those, and he and I can come on and answer them together, maybe about how we wrote a song, why we wrote it, where the idea come from, where we wrote it, all of those kinds of things, and kind of the process maybe of how we go into making an album. Some of those things are kind of a neat glimpse behind the scenes that you don't get normally in the normal press. They do the best job that they can out there, but they only get us artists talking about it for like 15 minutes at a time. So that being said, I hope you guys are as excited as we all are about the big announcement that we just made with a brand new album coming out. It's going to be called Straight Out of the Country. It's 8 brand new songs. And I kind of alluded to it while we were on the phone or on the Zoom machine, as JR calls it, who is back to having issues. So I'm flying pretty much solo today, which is kind of unusual. But anyway, we kind of talked about it a little bit briefly with Jeremy, that if you dug the Late Nights and Long Necks album, I think you're really going to enjoy this album. This is, I talked about in interviews with that album that we wrote a lot of songs Jeremy and I did down at the beach, 03 to 06, 07, and that predominantly was our first couple of albums material. And then we kind of got away from that and started writing on the road as I got busier, which is fun as well. But when we went in to make the Late Nights and Long Necks album, we decided, we both have beach places now, we decided to do it retreat style, go back and do it the way that we did it in the past. And it was a lot of fun. Just a whole different setting sometimes is good for your creative juices. And we either wrote or recorded, found outside songs and recorded, or wrote and recorded 30, 40 songs and dwindled those down to 10 for the Late Nights and Long Necks album. And I mentioned the Late Nights and Long Necks, the song I wanted to be on that album and every album I've done. But it didn't make it. So we knew that these songs were going to be coming out following the Late Nights and Long Necks album, and 8 more are coming at you in the form of Straight Out of the Country. Obviously, the first single from that album is We Didn't Have Much, which Jeremy talked about. And then I'm not ready to announce it yet, but you'll be getting the rest of those songs, in a lot shorter order than typically we've done things in the past. We typically put an album out. It's a couple, 2 or 3 years that we go out and tour that album. I can't say anything further, but you're going to get this album April 23rd. It is April 23rd. Straight Out of the Country comes out. And then, hell, we might give you another one really soon after that. So hopefully you guys are really excited about that. I know Jeremy said he was on spring break with his kiddos. Maybe also something interesting to hear from you guys would be if y'all have already gone on spring break, if you're enjoying it as we speak, and maybe use the hashtag Justin Moore Podcast. Tell us where you go with your family. Or if you're single, where do you go? Which beach do you go to, etc.? Let us know. JR is currently FaceTiming me. Let's see if this is going to work out any better for him. We're going to do this live right here. You're going to hear the ring and everything. What's up, buddy?
Man, I'm trying everything in my power. To get my internet to work. I can't get my hotspot to work. I can't get nothing. I think they're working on something because my phone went out and all of my internet stuff. So I think maybe they're working on something around here.
I told them we're going live with you on FaceTime right now. Well, that didn't go well. Trying to get him on FaceTime. Hey, we told you guys at the very beginning of this, we are not professional broadcasters, and we are certainly not tech savvy. We've gotten much better. I think we've improved a lot, at least in season 3. And typically I'm the one having internet issues, and today our pal JR is just down for the count. He's tried. He's made a valiant effort to be a part of this, but you got a lot more Justin Moore than you bargained for on the Justin Moore podcast today. We had a couple other things we wanted to go through with you guys, but it's seemingly impossible at this point, unless you just want to hear me ramble on and on and on. But want to wrap it up for the week. We'll give JR hell next week. Use the hashtag Justin Moore Podcast. Give JR some ribbing. That'll be funny too. We'll go through that next week. Remember to use the hashtag Justin Moore Podcast also to give us some questions about songs and albums for when we can bring Jeremy back on, and also use the Justin Moore or hashtag Justin Moore Podcast for let us know your spring break plans, how they went, where you go, what you do, all that good stuff. Do you go to the beach? Do you go skiing like we do? What do you do? We want to know. Let us know. It'll be fun to maybe catch up on some of that next week. And like we said, give JR some hell. I want to thank Bobcat again for being our our podcast sponsor, but also our tour sponsor. And I just saw a picture of my band bus that got wrapped, and it looks badass. There's some cool Bobcat stuff on it. So there'll be no denying whose bus is rolling down the road because there's pretty cool Bobcat logos and stuff all over. It's pretty neat. I'll have to maybe pop an image up there here in the next week or so and give you guys a heads up on how cool that looks. But thank Jeremy Stover again for coming on. A lot of fun catching up with him. And hopefully you guys, again, are as excited as we all are about brand new music. Brand new music. First single we didn't have much is inside the top 30 at Country Radio. Thanks to them for continuing to play our records and support us in that fashion. And it's on the rise. So call and request that dude and go stream it and tell your buddies to do so, please. But Straight Out of the Country, brand new album is coming out April 23rd. Again, 8 new tracks, and I hope you guys are as excited as we are. I think you're really, really going to enjoy it, especially if you dug the Late Nights and Long Necks album, rather. But like, subscribe, comment, rate on all of the forums in which you either watch this, listen to it, download it, etc. I don't know how the hell that helps us, but it certainly does. So helps us get more guests and helps us get more sponsorships. And maybe one day get some better internet. Who knows? But anyways, hope you guys have a great week, and I hope you enjoyed the show. And we'll see you right back here next time on the Justin Moore Podcast. Y'all have a good one. See ya.
For any of you first-time listeners out there, at the end of each of our episodes, I like to do a little reading out of a book I've had that I've got a lot of use out of over the years. The book is by Mr. Charlie Daniels, and the book is called Let's All Make the Day Count, The Everyday Wisdom of Charlie Daniels. Hurtful words. A soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. Proverbs 15:1. Many years ago, while doing a radio interview, I said something about a band that would be on a future show with us. It was not mean, condescending, or any way disparaging, but still not as complimentary as it could have been. And it was certainly not meant as a criticism or even judgment, as I had never even heard the band play. Their name simply came up in the course of the interview, and I made a very bland statement, basically saying that I was not familiar with them. One of the band members was listening and took what I said as a bit of an insult. I ran into him years after the incident, and he brought it up. He recalled it word for word, and the offhand remark I had made was still a distasteful memory. So many old adages are based in truth, and if you can't say something good about somebody, it's best to say nothing at all, is one of them. Words are powerful and can't be unspoken. Choose carefully the ones you use. Let's all make the day count.